And we're back with reporter and author Greg Miller. He covers national security for the Washington Post, and his latest book is The Apprentice: Trump, Russia, and the Subversion of American Democracy. Welcome.
Thank you.
Let's start with the recent news, which is of indictments against Russian hacking having to do with the Olympics.
Yeah, this is really interesting. These are indictments that we're just learning about now, but it's actually for activity that was happening around the same time as the election, in large measure. I think this shows just that we're in a new era of aggressive espionage, unlike anything we've ever been through. And that's what the book is largely about. And, you know, we face this great challenge at this moment from Russia, which is using espionage, using cyber operations to go at adversaries around the globe, including the United States. And here we are with a president who refuses to acknowledge any of that.
Give us a sense of how alive to this possibility of Russian intelligence hacking the Obama administration was, and now it's obviously everybody knows about it. But yeah. Were they slow on the uptake?
They were slow in one important way. I mean, I think that at the time when the initial penetration of the DNC by Russian intelligence operatives, Russian hackers, was detected, it was treated as just another in a long line of cyber penetrations by China, by Russia. They grab stuff, they look at the secrets, end of story, kind of. Nobody saw the second act here. Nobody saw the dumping of all this material, the weaponizing of this information by putting it out on WikiLeaks to hurt Hillary Clinton, to sow unrest in the United States, and later to help Donald Trump win.
And this is one of the great things about your book, is that it kind of connects what we thought were disparate events and puts them into a kind of narrative, right? So yes. On that WikiLeaks point, so they thought it was just mischief-making, but it was mischief-making which then was turned into a weapon, was deployed in the middle of an election.
Correct. So, right. So everybody expects Russia to engage in espionage. The United States does as well. To take what they get and then throw it out there for the world to see is really, really unusual. But we do see it now more and more. And this connects to the hacks that we learned about this week of anti-doping agencies. Those are designed to be overt acts, ultimately, to steal information, to try to discredit an adversary of the Kremlin.
And so then a third thing, which you will write about in the book, of course, this great question of whether the information weaponized, was it weaponized with the help of anybody in the Trump orbit?
Right. And I mean, obviously, we're waiting for Robert Mueller to give us the final answer to that question, and he's kept that very close hold. But of course, what I did in this book is try to trace out all the connections, and there are many, many connections, right? So the Trump Tower connections, Manafort's longstanding connections with the Kremlin, lots of interactions between Trump and his family, even well before the elections, with Russia, seeking meetings with Vladimir Putin and so forth.
What else in the book, when you think of the big pillars of this story, which you've had a chance to think about because you've taken a moment and stepped back from the crazy news cycle, what are the other big pillars for you?
I mean, I just want to reiterate what you just said. I think that part of the value of this book, to me even, was putting it all together in one place, because, you know, I was a reporter at the Post covering these stories as they were unfolding, the Mike Flynn story and so forth, and even I was just frequently lost, right? Getting lost in the daily deluge of information. So what I really tried to do with this book is put it together in a clean narrative. And even then, I was seeing connections that I was blind to at the time. It's really astonishing.
The administration has started talking about China a lot. Mike Pence spoke about the threat from China in a speech. Put that in context with respect to what the Russians have done, and what are the Chinese up to?
So, yeah, it's really interesting that the administration is sort of going after China right now. And China, of course, is aggressive in espionage and cyber espionage in particular, and has been for many years. The administration hasn't coughed up much evidence so far that they're interfering in a meaningful way in the upcoming election. I mean, China does put ads in newspapers and things like this, but I think the contrast is what's striking. What they are saying about China and what they're not saying about Russia, and you put those two things together, it's really, really hard to reconcile.
And what they have not said about Russia at other points along the line in the last 2 years.
Of course, right. We've just never seen the president really call out Russia in any meaningful way for what happened.
Let me ask you, since you cover national security, give me a sense of where President Trump, as a president who interacts with his national security officials, how does he do it relative to the way previous presidents have done?
It's unlike anything any of us has seen in our lifetimes, I think, in terms of his disengagement from the national security apparatus, right? And even beyond that, it's almost schizophrenic administration at times. And the book really goes into a lot of detail in this. It's not just about the election and the hacking. It is about Trump as president and how he's treated Russia, often in conflict with his own advisors, with his own cabinet.
What is the difference between John Bolton as the National Security Advisor and Henry McMaster?
McMaster was really much more into process and trying to bring the president along through briefings and elaborate presentations and so forth, and meetings and getting consensus, and Bolton sort of cuts through all that. I think he appeals to Trump in one way in that he sort of simplifies things for the president. It's a much smaller, tighter held process, and then he's working more closely with the president.
Does that argue then that it's perhaps more efficient?
It's more efficient, except that, you know, there are more people on the outside, more important people, more important voices, probably not getting heard the same way that they were getting heard across the administration under McMaster.
Quickly, last, what's the thing on the national security horizon we should be paying attention to?
Well, of course, the Mueller probe wrapping up. I mean, I think that we're about to enter Act 3 of this crazy drama.
All right, Greg Miller, thanks so much. The book is The Apprentice. There it is. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.